So this isn't my brand of video. I usually stay entirely to Mortal Kombat, fighting games, etc. Everything to do with fighting games and Mortal Kombat, basically, Injustice, all of that, NetherRealm Studios. But for those of you who don't know me, those of you who know me through Discord or Twitter, etc. will know that I love Total War. I've been a fan of this RTS game series since the 2014 or 2012, I don't exactly remember when it was, release of Rome 2, Total War Rome 2. One of my favorite Total War games, and I love Total War. Hell, I love the bad ones. I played the hell out of Rome 2 on launch, as I said, and I had a great time. Rome 2 is still my favorite, but Total War 3 Kingdoms is slowly creeping up on it, and I still cannot recommend this game to anyone for any reason. I put 27 hours into the game, I've completed the Julii campaign, and this is just unfortunate. It's hellaciously unfortunate because I wanted to love this. It's the first true historical Total War game since Attila. Like, holy shit. But this falters in every way, for me personally at least. They made it very clear that it was just a remaster from the start, and I get that, I do, but holy damn, they left the AI as it was 16 years ago. The pathfinding is still terrible. The updated UI not only looks like a mobile game, but is extremely confusing and impossible to get used to. This game, this remaster, cash grab, whatever you want to call it, is literally just a fresh coat of paint on a 16-year-old game. It's crazy to me, and I don't know if it's because Feral didn't want to do more, or if CA wouldn't allow them to do more than they did, but this is absolutely ridiculous. I think I could have lived with everything else, the bad pathfinding, wacky UI, the lack of any improvement whatsoever, if they improved the AI in the slightest. For example, I love to give examples. I'm the Julii. Cool, basic faction to get back in the groove of Rome 1. I love Rome, let's do it. Take out the rebels at the start, okay, cool. Decide to go after Gaul, great, let's stay on history's path. Beat the shit out of them for 20 plus turns, army after army. Falls to 2 of my armies. I reform and retrain, more come, they die. Let me preface this in saying the AI has always been dumb, even in the newer games, but for the most part they know when they've lost. Turn after turn, I try for peace. No. Destroy another full stack after full stack, march further into their land, taking their settlements. No. Like nothing I did made them surrender. Finally, after 4 or so hours and over 100 turns, and every faction I had alliances with, trade agreements, etc., declaring war on me out of nowhere, I gave in. The AI is horrible. There's no diplomacy. Your allies will betray you within a turn's notice. No faction will surrender no matter what. Even if you offer insane amounts of gold, like, it's just so off-putting. Like, why would you release 3K with the best diplomacy we've seen in years, then choose to remaster one of the greatest Total War games ever made, and just choose to make graphical improvements and some slight quality of life improvements and call it there? It blows my mind, and I know some people are going to big disagree with this because they've been accustomed to eating all of the shit that CA puts out, which I'm guilty of as well, with 3K and even Rome 2 being 2 of my favorite Total War games, but there comes a point where you have to notice what's going on and stand up and say, fuck that. And now is that time. The saddest part of all of this is this was the big chance to get historical Total War back on the map. The chance for a Shogun 3, a Rome 3, Medieval 3, and I don't know if they purposefully screwed it so they could continue to stray away from the historical Total War or what, but this was it. It needed the sales, it needed the reviews, it needed the love, and anyone with half a brain won't give into it. That's the worst part. It further hinders historical Total War, and that hurts. But I came back to it. I had to give it a solid try. I paid $15 for it, and I'll be damned if I'm just going to sit on it for a year and wait for mods to come out. So, I like to continue and try to work through it, and continue to rewrite my reviews as this was already written. So I like to do that, especially if a game gives me a knee-jerk reaction, to immediately write a review, and even more so if it's a bad one. With that being said, I've completed another campaign. I've completed one full campaign, so I've put about 25-ish, 23-ish more hours into the game, restarted the Julii campaign to give it another good, solid try. I lowered the difficulty to see if that would impact anything at all, and turns out it does. The AI on, laugh, it's for science, easy difficulty actually acts like it's not fucking brain dead, making agreements, suing for peace when they know they've been beaten, and even forming very well put together armies, especially in the civil war that occurs by the player's choice. What the AI on normal or hard has done in my experience on most of every other Total War game I've played since Rome 2. The battles are still immensely fun, but only out of siege battles. The siege battles on this are horrible. The pathing, as I mentioned, is terrible in siege battles, so I've avoided them at all costs, and it's really cut down the playtime of my playthrough. But in the open, they're really fun. They're really fun, like taking me back to when tactics actually meant something fun. So for about the first 80 or so turns in this new campaign, I was having a considerable amount more fun than I had in my first, and that's when it went downhill. It comes down to really being able to see how little work was put into this remaster, and how the quality of life changes were only surface level and barely, if at all, helped the mid to late game. For example, because if you've watched this video through long enough, you know I love examples. The Roman reforms happen around 225 to 222 BC. While I actually love the retraining aspect of Rome Total War, having to have the correct buildings for the specific units and have them garrison to actually replenish, one of my pet peeves of the game was always the Marian reforms, or hopefully I'm saying that, the Marian reforms. When it hit that point, if you were in any wars, especially on multiple fronts, you were fucked. And I mean fucked hard. Because after the reforms, you can't retrain any pre-reform units. So every army you have is one and done. You can't retrain or reform any of your pre-existing units into the newer cohorts, or even just the upgraded Roman archers, or whatever the post-reform calls this specific unit. Also, don't forget, settlements only recruit one unit per turn, so, and for my example, I had 3 armies near Rome, because I focused west, southwest, north to northwest, and the Greek cities managed to become a powerhouse in this playthrough. I had 5, count them 5, Spartan armies at my doorstep. Hey, enjoy the reforms, fucker! So turn after turn, I'm throwing armies to the meat grinder, recruiting units one at a time, this, that, and the other. The Spanish and the Britons decide to throw our peace and trade deals and everything else out the window, and all declare war on me in the same turn, while I'm trying to reform my armies on that front. Can you see what's going on here? In a good story, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and with that comes rising action. Rising action is basically the tension of the story. Something happens to kick off the rising action, that leads to event after event, continuing the rising action, eventually leading to the climax, falling action, and resolution. The rising action in this case is, of course, war. That leads to conquering, which leads to more war, which eventually leads to victory or defeat. In the case of victory, that leads to quelling rebellions, which leads to the resolution, which is, of course, peace. The rising action of the story that I was creating was held to a complete stop due to an aged and dated game mechanic that could have been fixed very easily, and probably will be fixed by modders very quickly. The remaster and the quality of life changes for this game feel purely surface level. Enough for someone to say, oh, that looks cool, I'll try it, after seeing maybe an hour or 2 of gameplay. After that, it falls to shit. That's the major problem as well. Unless you're playing short victory games 24/7, the quality of life changes only affect you for a short amount of time, because most of us play the long games, take over the fucking world games. And at this point, I've finished my campaign. I've not conquered the world, and this is where we kind of get off script, because I wanted to record this with my, initial reactions of being done. I've beaten the rebellions down. I'm in a winning war against everyone. I'm the most powerful faction on the map, The only factions left are Carthage, because I focused north, northwest, southwest, and now eastward, and the Greek cities are beat all to hell, falling back into what is now, Iran, and what was then Parthia, because they took them over. They're broken and beaten all to hell. I have many reformed armies that are just complete powerhouses, and the Brutii only have 3 or 4 armies left, or the Scipii only have 3 or 4 armies left on the Egyptian coast. So I've won. I got the victory screen. I've won. Has anything changed? Well, the one thing I can say is, after the reform happens, and I've reformed all of my armies, and I had these powerhouse units that I'm used to seeing, all you see in the documentaries and the movies are the legionary cohorts of Rome, and they're always so fun to use in these Rome games. And so, yeah, admittedly, I started having a lot of fun, especially in the Civil War, but that's not because of the remaster. That is because of Rome 1. If I was to go back and I was to play Rome 1, I would be having the same amount of fun because it's the same game with better graphics. Hell, I actually kind of prefer the old graphics because it fits the game. It's not a shiny piece of shit to cover up the piece of shit. You polish a turd, it's still a turd. It's just a slightly prettier turd, if that makes any sense at all. And I'm not calling Rome 1 a turd. That just feels like what this remaster is. They polished a very aged and dated game and expected it to appeal to who? The people who love Rome 1? Well, you changed a lot from Rome 1. You changed the UI of Rome 1. You changed the camera of Rome 1. You changed a lot of how the battles work from Rome 1. You've changed a lot from Rome 1, so you're trying to appeal to the people who like the newer games, right? Well, a lot of the people who play the newer games aren't used to the recruitment of Rome 1, the building system of Rome 1, how the public order works, and the actual population of Rome 1, and even for the Roman campaigns, the 3 split factions in Rome. And they want the updated quality of life changes, such as the Marian reforms, such as, retraining your units, all of them replenishing in one turn, not mattering where you are in your province. Doesn't matter what buildings you have, so long as you have, the army building that lets you recruit everything. So who are you appealing to? It seems that Total War has fallen into the trope of Assassin's Creed. I've recently gotten into watching a lot of videos about Assassin's Creed, and knowing my experience with Total War and where it's at, they're in almost the exact same spot. Assassin's Creed is just a little bit further. And that is, they try to appeal to both sides. In Assassin's Creed, it's the people who want the assassin stories to come back. They try to appeal to that while trying to appeal to the people who've really had their interest piqued since, Origins, and then Odyssey, and now Valhalla. So they're staying in that middle line and not catering to anyone because they try to cater to everyone. And that seems like exactly where Total War is. And that is exactly where Rome Total War falls. It tries to appeal to both sides and ends up not really appealing to anyone. And of course, if this video gets views, then the like to dislike ratio is definitely going to show differently. I haven't even been able to post on the forums for this game saying one wrong thing about it without getting my ass chewed by mostly everyone who's commented. People are defending this game tooth and nail, whatever you want to say, and I don't know if it's just because it's Rome 1, or if it's because what the consequences of this game not doing well and everyone not loving it would be, which would be, I think, the not ultimate death of historical Total War, because that's never going to happen, but, it's definitely going to hinder it, like I said earlier. I don't know if it's because of that or what, but people seem to be eating this shit up, and I don't know why, but that is my view on this game. It's just a game that ends up falling in the middle, trying to cater to everyone, and ends up not catering to anyone. Especially not me, who's a big fan of the old games, and a big fan of the new games. If they would have purely updated the graphics in this game and released it exactly how it was for maybe $5 to $10, I would have paid for it easily and been fine with that. The updated graphics with the old Rome everything, that is what should have happened if this was a remaster. In my opinion, they should have went with a remake and ended up with, on paper, an entirely better game for most people, but those who didn't want that could easily just go back to Rome 1. There's enough in this game to justify the people who played Rome 1 to play this and still have things to bitch about, if that makes any sense, because it's not Rome 1 exactly. If they were going to do this little work and try to stay this in the middle for this remaster, they should have literally just updated the graphics and left it as is, because once you start updating everything else within the game, it leads to you should have updated everything, because they updated just enough for there to be standout things like the Marian reform, like the public order, like the AI. Not the public order, but like the AI, to where it's like, why didn't you just fucking fix that too? You went far enough to redo the entire UI and battle camera and camera of the campaign map. How hard would it have been to tweak the AI? You come to points like that. So I don't really know. I'm not saying that this is a bad game, because it's Rome 1. I mean, it's Rome 1. Rome 1's fucking fun. If you got $15 to spend, yeah, I mean, it's Rome 1 with better graphics and a better camera. But if you don't want to give into a shitty business practice of doing things half-assed, which CA has been doing for years, then don't buy it. I bought it to review it. I bought it because I was curious. I'm going to give this as a remastered Rome Total War. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. And that's a little harsh, but that's because they did just enough to piss me off. You ever ate something and it's like small, it's like a small portion, and you're like really hungry and you're like, wow, that was just enough to piss me off, and it made me more hungry because I didn't get enough. That's what this is. It's just enough to piss you off, because it's like you see what this could have been if they put the work into it, but it ends up not being really anything because it's just Rome 1 with updated graphics. But I've spent enough time yelling into my microphone. I didn't have a script for the last half of this video, so that's why we got very rambly and very off course and very combined. But this review is from my Steam page. I started writing this review literally after the 5 hours that I played it the day it came out, and I added to it once I got further into my campaign that I restarted. So this is directly from my Steam page. I wanted to write my thoughts down, and I knew I was eventually going to put it into a video. I just don't know if I'm going to put it up because that's not what my channel is about, but I probably will. But nonetheless, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I hope I answered some of the questions about the game that you may have had that kept you on the fence from buying it or not. If you don't want to support a shitty business practice, I wouldn't get this. I would try to teach them a lesson, even though you really can't because it's Sega, even if it does hinder historical Total War. I know that kind of sucks, but that's probably the best thing to do because we have to stop eating the shit that they throw at us. And that goes for me too, with, you know, 3 Kingdoms in Rome too. But that is going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. One thing I've always really liked about the Total War community is having conversations and discussing the game. So let's do that. Please don't destroy the dislike button because I said something bad about this remaster and it's Rome Total War. Jesus Christ, to be fair. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. My name is Tootin. I've been your host, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.